asshole Reddit stories today, and I am very, very excited. I am currently pre-filming this for this Sunday. However, my neighbours are currently being quite loud. I hope that with enough post-editing I can kind of tone down the background noises. However, if I don't film now, we won't have a video on Sunday, and I promised myself I would be more consistent, so I apologize for any extra background noises that you might hear today, but we'll jump into these stories as always. I'm going to do some close-up whispers, and some mic brushing. But one thing I would love to remind you to do is to like and subscribe. It really helps me out in getting these videos, making these videos or what. But yeah, I obviously appreciate each and every one of you that is here, and I'm very excited that we are finally back into reading more of these Reddit stories. So let's actually straight up get started with the first story. So get comfortable, grab a drink, grab a snack, and we'll get started. The first story we're reading today is called Am I the Asshole for Not Changing My Annual Backyard Party Plans for My Boyfriend and His Kids? I, 42 female, have been hosting an end of summer party with my neighbors for years. It's always the same setup. Adults and kids come, we all celebrate together, and at some point the kids go to sleep while the adults continue the evening. This year's plan was the same. I was going to bring my kids, 6 and 10 years old, inside to sleep at our home, which is right next to the backyard. From the balcony, there's both audio and visual access to the yard, and my kids also have a phone that they can use to call me if needed. After putting them to bed, I plan to go back to the backyard for a little while longer to enjoy the evening with friends. I invited my boyfriend of 6 months, 46 male, and his kids, 5 and 7 years old, to join us. He declined, saying he didn't feel comfortable leaving his kids to sleep at my place since they hadn't stayed there before. He also didn't like the idea of putting them to bed at my place while he stayed outside with me, or going to bed with them while I stayed outside. I told him I understood completely, and I didn't have a problem with him choosing not to come. But then he got upset and said that he and his kids weren't actually welcome at the party because of the way the party was set up. I explained that his party had been running for years with the same format, and it's not really something I can or want to change. For one guest, my view is that the guests can decide if the event works for them, and if not, they don't have to come. In his opinion, I should have left the party with him and our kids when it was bedtime. On top of that, during the party, I didn't have time to call him because I wanted to focus on my guests and enjoy the evening. He was hurt by this too, saying I should have made time. This all turned into a big argument. So, am I the asshole house, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just really not that bad. It's really not that bad. I think my parents did it all the time when I was younger, and those fun little parties in the neighborhood were always such a fun time. They were such a fun time. We used to do that as well. So I personally do not think she's the asshole. I completely agree with her that he could have either come or not come, and he doesn't have to make that big a drama. But where I'm like, my alarm bells are going off, is it him being annoyed that she didn't call him during the party? Like, what are you talking about? I'm so confused. Like, surely she can spend some hours without you calling. So it kind of makes me think that the whole thing is not about the party, you know? It's not about the party. It definitely feels a little bit icky. Like, I can fully understand, like, him not wanting to leave his kids or whatever. I think that's a really personal decision of a parent that everyone has to respect. But she really doesn't have to change the way she does it, if you know what I mean. But let's read some of the comments, and the top comment actually says, not the asshole, he was testing the waters to see if he can control you, and now he is trying to manipulate you. You did nothing wrong. Yeah. Someone else said, not the asshole, he literally could have just come for the party and left with his kids when it got late if he didn't want them to sleep over. Like, that is it, full stop. Instead, he's mad. You've only known him for a couple of months. Wanted you to change a tradition that involves others for what? Like, I still don't understand why he is so upset about it. It just doesn't make sense. Someone else commented that he's testing how much he can pressure her to change and put his kids at the top of her priority list. She didn't change, so he got busy. He is shopping for mummy to voice his kids onto. Maybe someone said he is too old and the relationship is too young for this silly drama. Truly. Someone said he wanted you to call him to chat while you were hosting a party, which he declined to attend. Very, very needy human being with no common sense. Luckily, he showed this after only 6 months. It sounds like you have a good life independent of him. So probably best to go back to enjoying that for now. Better luck next time. Yeah. You know, someone said, not the asshole, he is right to set boundaries for himself and his children, but he doesn't get to dictate yours. Also, I'm sensing that he would have bitched even if you called him during the party as well. Tell him to grow up if he wants to have a relationship with you, or grown up. Yeah, truly, I don't really know what anyone expected to be happening in the story. Like, I don't know what his end goal was. So, you know, definitely not the asshole. The overall vote on Reddit was also asshole for filing a police report on a good friend who was caught on video stealing my boyfriend's camera at dinner. She has refused to help me either replace it in full or contribute to the cost of replacing it. Now, I'm really intrigued because the overall vote on this thread is asshole. So, I really want to know how we got there, because right away it doesn't sound that bad, okay? So, here comes the story. We were out to dinner one night at an expensive hotel. My boyfriend let me borrow his Canon G7X camera to bring to take pictures with my friends. That is literally the camera I'm currently filming on, so say hi. Okay. At the conclusion of the dinner, I went up to the room and realized the camera was gone. I went back right down to the table and no one had seen it. I immediately got with hotel security and she's on video, clear as day, swiping the camera when my back was turned and shoving it in her purse. I covered for her initially with my friends and contacted her to find a solution. She had taken the camera with her and my other friends to a club after dinner, which I did not attend, and lost it there. For background, this is my good college friend, who I know well, has been taken on free trips to Coachella and St. Bart's on my dime. I'm not kidding, as well as many other things. We have done a lot together and are good friends, so I expected her to feel sorry. Initially, she lied, saying she did not have it. When I told her we had video, she confessed and then said yes, she took it but lost it at the bar she went to with my other friends. Now it's gone. I asked her to help me replace it by going in on me with the cost. She has refused all measures or resolutions, and now I feel like I have nothing left to do but file a police report and let them handle it. It is impacting my relationship, and I'm furious that my friend is not helping at all. Why I should be on the hook for something she stole. I have given her 3 weeks to help me resolve that, but she insists she's going to do nothing. I'm being pressed by my boyfriend to either replace the camera or help him file a report for her info and the footage. I even asked her to just throw in half or less than half the cost to help, but she still refuses. I do not want her to get in trouble, but I'm at the point where I feel like she does not really care. Okay. I fail to realize where this would make her the asshole. I'm so confused. Like, I think the friend's the asshole. Like what? So I feel like we're missing some of the storyline here. The first top comment is, "You're the asshole. Is there a reason you're choosing your thieving girlfriend over your boyfriend? She's made it clear she's not your friend and that she's not going to make this right. The police report should have been filed the moment she said she wasn't going to pay for it. If I were your boyfriend, I would be reconsidering the relationship with you over this. You're really dragging your feet to make this right. Get the report made and replace his camera." Okay. Okay. Someone said, "You're the asshole. Not sure why you're even asking. I've rarely seen a post with more asshole-ish behavior on here." What? "You're an asshole to your boyfriend. Kind guy trusted you with something valuable, and you're not even giving him a imagine you have after it got swiped. You brought your asshole friend to his dinner. You're what? You're an asshole for not filing a report. You're an asshole to yourself for holding this fucking friend accountable. What the hell do you mean throw in half? Get your head out of your ass and go file a report. Make sure your boyfriend is made whole. Be utterly embarrassed with your own behavior here and do better next time. What? Someone said, are you for real? A person steals from you and you need to ask Reddit if it's okay to go to the police for it. Okay, listen, I don't think she's the asshole for asking. I feel like I would truly have a very hard time filing a police report on one of my friends. I would probably also try to more kindly resolve this by talking to them first, you know. I feel like maybe this is a bit of a case of Reddit overreacting. Like obviously the boyfriend deserves his camera back, you know, but she even offered to pay half for it to, you know, help a friend out. It truly does not sound like that friend is a great friend. But I kind of fail to see a little bit how she's the asshole in this situation, you know, and how everyone is so aggressive. Like, yes, of course, she should go to the police, file a report, and, you know, be done with this annoying friend of hers. However, it does sound, you know, like she cares for that friend. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Reddit isn't having a lot of empathy here. But I got 3 little updates in this text that I'll read to you. So, update 1. I sent her a text this AM telling her that if I do not receive the full cost of the camera or shipping confirmation of a new camera from an approved vendor to the provided address by end of day Friday, we will be filing a report with the police Saturday AM. I feel like an asshole typing this out to her, but I have to do it. Update 2. She told me she's sick of me and that I will be receiving a tracking number by 12 Eastern on Friday, and not to blame her if the package is never received. I told her that if she was my real friend, she would be sorry, and in no way will I allow this to be flipped on me. Should I ask if the camera is new or the one that disappeared? Update 3. She sent me a tracking number via FedEx. It says it's a waiting package. I've asked her repeatedly if she's sending me the original camera, assuming it magically turned up on new one. She refuses to answer and only tells me to stop bothering her. You know what? At this point, just call the cops. Call the cops. I really don't think she is really gonna get far with this friend. There's probably gonna be nothing in that package, and she's gonna act like the FedEx lost it or whatever. Like, I don't think she's actually truly posting this package. Like, tell me what you think. But this is a quite new story. This only been posted 23 hours ago, and it's literally racked up almost 13,000 upvotes because I think people were enraged at her behavior. I'm a little bit confused by Reddit's, you know, crazy behavior on here. I don't think we needed to go this hard on her. She's clearly trying to figure out the solution and not being super mean to her friend, but also not wanting to help her boyfriend. Obviously she's trying to make this right and knows she made a mistake. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's that big of an asshole as Reddit is trying to make her out to be. But yeah, she needs to call the cops. Call the cops, you know. Sometimes that is a good solution, so not sure if I think she's the asshole. I would say like not, but I'm happy to hear your guys' opinion on it. You know, do you think she just downright is the asshole, or are you a bit more lenient? Because I kind of definitely feel like I get trying to wanted to sort this out with your friend before calling the cops. But we'll continue with the next story. Now, the next story is called Am I the Asshole? I do not want a service dog to participate in my wedding. I, 28 female, am getting married in the spring. I've asked one of my best friends to be one of my bridesmaids. She has a service dog for PTSD. I respect her dog and I'm very glad she has it in her life. My fiance and I don't particularly care for dogs, and we've decided we don't want her service dog in our photos or in the ceremony. When I asked her, she got excited and immediately said her dog could wear something to match the rest of the bridesmaids. That's when I explained that the dog could not come to the wedding. Oh no, hang on. That's when I explained that the dog could come to the wedding, but wouldn't be an active participant in the day. We don't want it in photos or in the ceremony. It could go to photos, but not be in them. It'll be off to the side for the 10 to 15 minute ceremony. In preliminary discussions with our photographer, we've brought this up. She did not take it well, called me an asshole and ableist, and it was not a constructive conversation after the ask. She hasn't accepted my offer to be a bridesmaid, but also hasn't formally declined. Am I the asshole for not letting my friend have a service dog with her for my wedding photos and the ceremony? I might be the asshole here because I'm asking my friend to be away from her medical device. I'm coming across as ableist, and I'm not willing to be flexible on this with my friend. Ooh, I'm actually very intrigued because the overall vote on this was not the asshole. And I don't know. So with weddings, okay, have a strict policy of if it doesn't really hurt you, just try to be a little accommodating with the bride. I will say I am a little bit confused why the bride would have chosen her friend to be a bridesmaid then in the first place. I get that you don't want a dog at the wedding and in your photos, you know, if that's not really a jam, you know, especially if you want like classic, like cute, whimsical photos, you know, and then there's a random dog in it. Like, you know what I mean? If you don't want those like funny wedding photos, but you want more artsy wedding photos, obviously it could be cute, but for some people I think it just, however, obviously this is a service dog, so I'm so confused why she asked that girl in the beginning then to be a bridesmaid if, like, you know. However, I obviously can't speak about if she can be without the dog for like 10 to 15 minutes, and it would obviously be very annoying for her to not have the dog next to her during the ceremony. And I don't know if like she would run into some issues, you know, or have, you know, health or mental issues with being separated from her dog for so long. I feel like it's a bit of an odd ask ceremony, like I get the pictures, like I'm sure she can pose for like 1 minute without the dog, you know, I hope that's fine. I can have like really little experience with service dogs. So I don't know how long you want to or like can be separated from it. But like I feel like if you want to participate in the wedding, you just maybe you have to not go to the ceremony and not be in the photos, you know. And then for the bride, I feel like you could have the dog in the ceremony, like no one would see you. I guess as a bridesmaid, I would like sit next to her. Hey? That's why I'm saying, like, why even choose her as a bridesmaid, you know, because then it wouldn't be that big of a problem in the first place. So I'm a little bit torn. I don't think. I'm not sure if anyone's the asshole. I would feel like this is a bit of an unreasonable request, but also as a bride, I would also not want to have a dog in my wedding. However, if it's a service dog, you know, I'd like rethink it, but then I'd just probably not make that person a bridesmaid. Because I don't seem to have a problem with the dog being there at any other time. So I'm really confused about the story. Let's read some comments to maybe shed some light. So the top comment, I'm probably going to get voted to hell, but I have a service dog. I was also maid of honor in my best friend's wedding. My service dog was sat in the front row with her family during the ceremony and wasn't included in the formal pictures. It wasn't a constant thing. It was 15 minutes here and 5 minutes there. I could still see my dog and she could see me. She still alerted just fine when I was feeling overwhelmed. It's not a huge ask to not have your dog be the part of the ceremony. Keep the dog in the front row and off to the side during the formal pics. Bride needs to decide if she's willing to take the chance that there will be a meltdown because her PTSD may be triggered. Friend needs to decide the same. Someone said, I'm too European for this, not the asshole. I don't know what I'm supposed to mean, I'm also European, but I mean, I feel like, I don't know. Someone said, not the asshole. You said you're okay with your friend having the dog at the wedding, just did not want the dog to be an active participant in the wedding ceremony and photos. I feel like everyone voting you're the asshole did not read the post fully and assumed the bride doesn't want the bridesmaid to bring the dog at all, and that is clearly not true. The bride says the dog at the wedding to the side is fine, but to be an active participant in the wedding ceremony and the photos is not. The bride doesn't want the dog in the photo, so why does she need to have photos with the dog? To replace her friend. It's not her friend's wedding, and it's not the friend who's paying for the photos either. Yeah, I don't know. Not the asshole, you're not preventing a service dog from going, you just don't want it in pictures. It would be the same as not letting a date be in your pictures if they aren't part of the wedding. Yeah, no, I don't know, you know, I mean, I feel like she can decline to be a bridesmaid, but it is like, I don't know, I feel like maybe the subject was brought up a little wrong as well in this conversation. I probably would have really like tried to be more understanding and be like, would this be okay, you know, would you be able to go without your dog for that time, because otherwise it's totally fine. We can like not have you in the ceremony either if you're not comfortable with it. You know, I feel like this isn't the dogs in the photos or not decision. It's just kind of like the dog. Like, if you're not a bridesmaid, this isn't an issue at all. You would just be sitting in the back rows and, you know, not be in the official ceremony anyway then. If such a big deal for the bridesmaid. Just say no. Just say no. But also as the bride, just don't ask that friend. Like, what? I feel like this is a very stupid issue to have. However, I think both maybe need to be a bit more understanding with each other and maybe more lenient. However, yeah, I don't know, I also wouldn't want to have a dog at my wedding, so. But then again, I was just at my best friend's wedding and they had their dog in the wedding and it was the cutest thing ever, so you might want to reconsider, I don't know. Regardless, we'll move on with the next story because I think I could just talk in circles about the story and we would not come to conclusion. Now, the next story is called Am I the Asshole for Not Cancelling Our Long Planned Trip because my mother-in-law scheduled surgery at the same time. My husband and I have a big trip planned for 5 weeks from now. It's a once-in-a-lifetime type of vacation. 15 days on the other side of the world. Over 27 hours of flight each way. We've been planning and saving for it for over 6 months. Both of us work very stressful jobs and very rarely get the chance to take any time off like this, and we've never did in the last 12 years. My mother-in-law, 70, has several health issues. She's recently scheduled a very complicated surgery for exactly the time we will be away. She knew that we were away. We were not consulted about the timing. There's almost no other family around, and the few relatives who live about 40 minutes away either don't drive, have jobs, or simply can't and won't help her during recovery. We don't have the option to reschedule our trip without losing a significant amount of money. And honestly, we suspect she chose these dates partly for tension or to create conflict. There were other possible dates. Now there's pressure on us to cancel and be there for her. But we feel that after all the time, money and energy we put into this trip and how rarely we get breaks, it is unfair to expect us to change our plans. Am I the asshole for deciding to still go on our trip? No. I feel like it is actually a pre-planned, premeditated decision by the mother-in-law. Truly, I don't think she randomly woke up one day and was like, this is the day I need to get surgery, So I think she's purposely weaponizing this to not be alone for 15 days maybe, or to, make them take care of her. I think in any case, go on your vacation if she wants you guys to take care of her. This kind of wasn't mentioned. Then she should have brought this up, especially if she knew about it, she should have brought it up. And now there are, services you have to pay for, like staying in the hospital after your surgery. It's just is what it is. If you're not being considerate to the family members that take care of you, what is the expectation? A lot of times in these stories, I always wonder what the person that, was doing something weird, what they were expecting the outcome to be. Because sometimes I'm just like, how did you think that anything else was gonna happen? Where does the Lulu come from? But let's read some comments. The top comment is, not the asshole. It almost sounds deliberate. You scheduled surgery for when we are away. If you're going to need our help, then you will need to reschedule or make other arrangements. Exactly. I I'm sure she can have the surgery 2 weeks later, you know, or earlier. Someone said, not the asshole, she can go to a rehab facility or have home health visits. I'd pretend she deliberately scheduled when you are not going to be there to save you from the headache of her care and the worry, and isn't that so sweet, just like her to do. Oh, you know what, well played, well played. Actually, I would maybe do that as well. Someone said, I get the family pressure, but no, you're not wrong for going. You planned ahead, gave notice, and she chose those dates anyway. That is not your emergency to fix. She also said, someone else said, you're going for 15 days. She has 350 other days of the year to choose. This was clearly intentional, and you'd be nuts to cancel. I mean, yeah, I hope this isn't an emergency surgery, but it just doesn't sound like it. Really, you know, the woman is 70. Like, either she's gonna figure this out on her own. She's a grown adult. She's a premium adult, and I'm sure she can figure this out. You know, so yeah. No, I would try to not feel super bad about it, and I would try to still enjoy my holiday, and I would definitely not cancel, you know. If she wants you there, she needs to make amends, she would have to reimburse you or something. If you decide to be so sweet to not go, but I don't think, definitely they're not the asshole, and that is also the overall vote. The overall vote on this thread, so kind of what I'm going with as well. I feel like the grandma's a bit unreasonable, you know, so not the asshole, not the asshole. Enjoy your trip. So, moving along, the next story is called Am I the Asshole for Kicking Out My Friend's Neurodivergent friend for what I felt was ignoring boundaries and touching my personal stuff? I'm just super annoyed that I'm made to be the bad guy, but in case I'm missing something, here it is. My friends have a buddy who uses pronouns they, them. They bring along who is on the spectrum and high functioning. They can drive, live independently, clearly make friends, and hold down a job. So I personally think they can understand and respect boundaries. They have this annoying and disgusting habit of burping really hard, effortfully, so it's loud. And I have a sensitive nose and it smells. I don't care they do that, but when it's in my literal personal space, less than 3 feet, it's an issue. I told them several times not to do that when they are literally facing me and talking to me, facing me or eating right next to me with an entire plate of food being passed around. The end of my patience was then met when I had a gathering and they invited them. Their friend, came in and was warm to them. Then when I go to the bathroom, I come back looking for them to tell them we are eating. Lo and behold, they are playing with my hearing aids. I put in a device to dry them out since it was raining. My friends just speak louder around me when they are off. I literally need those for work. My safety and other people playing with it, let alone wearing them, is unsanitary. I flipped out and told him to put those down, and he burped in my face, laughing, saying they were sorry, and tried to hug me. They dropped one of my hearing aids on the floor and almost spilled their drink on it, the puddle barely touching it as I grabbed it. These are $3,000 each. I told them to let go, and my friends were trying to get me to understand that they has trouble with these social cues. My response was, I'm allowed to decide what I put up with in my personal space and who handles my medical devices. Anybody who can hold down a job, make friends, and live alone should be able to respect boundaries. I don't care if they're on the spectrum. That doesn't mean anything on this. My friends left with them, and I've been back and forth with one of them about it. Am I the asshole for saying what I said and kicking out their friend? It was argued that I should have been more understanding and more flexible with boundaries and not leave valuable items out in the open, especially for someone that is neurodivergent. I don't think that term is appropriately used by them here in this context. I personally think this is a bit of a touchy subject because there are obviously some things that come with, a neurodivergent diagnosis. I don't think they mentioned they're on the spectrum. I'm not sure, what neurodivergent they are referring to, if they're referring to autism or if they're referring to ADHD. I'm not sure. But in any case, I feel like those things can impact how a person behaves around others, and I feel like there is some grace that should be awarded to them, and with certain things you definitely have to make not adjustments, but you have to evaluate the actions in a fair light, and really differentiate if this is actually a behavior based on their diagnosis, or if it's not. And unfortunately, I do also think that it cannot be an excuse, if you steal and then you say, I didn't know it was wrong, it is still wrong, do you know what I mean? And for certain behaviors, whether or not they're based on being neurodivergent, you face certain consequences, If you misread a situation and, are mean to someone else, you also are hurting their feelings, whether willingly or not. And then there's a consequence you might have to live with, whether it being that you're not longer being friends with them, or they are enforcing their boundaries. And I feel like in this case, with the whole burping thing, okay, I personally am a little bit confused by this because I am unsure if this is someone trying to be annoying or if this is actually a neurodivergent quirk they're having, because how exactly are they holding down the job if they need a burp in someone's face every 5 minutes? It would also, I'm not the expert here in any way, okay, and do not ask me, but I feel like burping around all day in someone's face isn't exactly a symptom of neurodivergency, So, I think their behavior is just a little bit weird, personally. And I wouldn't love that for myself, and I could not deal with someone burping in my face, and it was clearly communicated, and you could argue that really annoying. Oh no, I'm not even not even annoying, but like burping is actually gross, you know. Another person, and if they don't want to be friends with you anymore, I feel like in a way that's their right. If this is actually something that only happens because of their neurodivergency, you know, then it would make OP like a bit of an asshole for not being more understanding or whatnot. But in the end, I think, like in this case, okay, there is more grace that I think a person deserves if they have health limitations to certain things, but a lot of disabilities, whether like mental or some physical, obviously there's no excuses, like cases in which isn't true, but I feel like we need to and they deserve to be treated the same, but obviously with more grace towards their disability. Like I personally, you never know, but I personally wouldn't ask a wheelchair user, you know, to run a marathon with me and then be pissed off. But if the wheelchair user, you know, is being a dick to me, I would hold them to the same standard as I hold my other friends. Does this make sense? So, I feel like in this case, yes, it might be because of neurodivergency, but you are acting really weird. You're being annoying. Someone actively asked you to stop, and again, I'm like unsure why you would randomly be touching someone else's stuff and breaking it, I guess. Like, they're not a child, and they actively have a job. So I'm just confused with the whole burping thing. I don't think that's a them thing, you know. I think they are trying to be really annoying, and he's right in putting the boundaries up. You know, he doesn't have to deal with behavior like this. I'm a bit more on the like side with the hearing aid, but obviously, that is a very touchy subject for that person. It would cause a lot of like financial strain to having to replace it. So obviously, I also wouldn't want that to break. And again, I would hold probably all my friends to that standard. With that one though, I can see how, you know, you could misread the situation as a neurodivergent person and be like, oh, like what is this? You know, let me just have a look, I'm curious. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like the friend is not behaving correctly and OP is within its right to enforce boundaries, whether or not neurodivergent. I don't think he's the asshole. Let me know what you think about this. I feel like this is something where you could definitely argue this from multiple angles. Maybe not like this exact story, but again, I think we all need a bit more understanding for other people in their situations. It wouldn't hurt anybody. However, in moments like this, you know, I feel like it was justified to kick him out. But let's read other people's opinion, because I think I'm going in circles here. I don't even know if I made sense explaining my thoughts on this. Sometimes I feel like I'm literally talking random stuff that doesn't have a point. However, detailed comment, I would have kicked everyone to Tourette syndrome, because I know it's speech related, so I'm not entirely sure if that would actually cause someone to like involuntarily burp at someone. But then again, I don't really think neither a autistic diagnosis or a like ADHD or like anything neurodivergent would like actively cause you to be like burping and not understanding that that was gross. I don't know. I've like not ever seen that. And I've actually fun fact about my life. I went to a school where we had a lot of like social studies and social work. And I've actually, we did like a lot of little trips and excursions and internships where we were like working in kindergarten, old people's homes. We were working with a group of autistic adults, and honestly, they were so nice. They were so lovely. I loved all of them, okay? And not one of them burped in my face. Regardless, let's read another comment. They said, not the asshole coming from a high-functioning autistic. Even if they cannot pick up your social cues, you have told them several times you had boundaries, yet they still continue to burp in your face. I personally do not understand what thought process they would have to pick up medical devices. Never mind, they have been in your ears. I wouldn't even touch a person's crotches, let alone something so small, sensitive, and expensive. They are the a-hole. They shouldn't be using their diagnosis as an excuse or shield. If it happens once and you express your dislike and boundaries, it should not happen again. Period. I don't know if maybe the high functioning is like high functioning ADHD. I feel like that's a thing, right? Or am I like, is this purely talking about an autism diagnosis? Because in my experience, or like what I know, it impacts how well you read social cues and social interactions, and it can be very overstimulating being with a lot of people. But I've like not really heard, or I've never really known that it would also, make you be like super touchy with other people's stuff and like not know that that is, you shouldn't be touching something, But then again, I'm obviously not the expert on this. I feel like I'm going in circles. Someone said, 100% not the asshole. I have an autistic son. I'm his legal guardian and he is unable to live alone. He would never act this way. This is not the behavior of a person on the spectrum. This isn't a disability. This is a complete ass who uses his disability to harass the people around them, and you absolutely do not have to tolerate it. If he burps, tell him he is disgusting and walk away. If he touches your stuff, scream at him to drop it. If he wants to act like an animal, treat him like one. Disabled people can also be assholes. Just because they are assholes, they have no excuse, and people tend to allow them to get away with it. Don't be one of them. Not the asshole. That was all very intentional. There are a lot of assholes everywhere. He just happens to be one who's on the spectrum. I do get the vibe in the story here that they're using that diagnosis as a bit of a ipsy. I can do this, But again, I feel like OP is not the asshole. Let's just wrap it up with that. I feel like OP is definitely not the asshole. Making boundaries clear is never a mistake, and even if the behavior was based on their neurodivergent diagnosis, it would still not mean that it's okay to do it, and you'd still in some capacity have to learn overcorrect. Like, it can be argued if it was intentional or not, I think, and if they, as in the friend, was an asshole or not. But yeah, I think OP isn't. I would also make my boundaries very clear here. Because it just feels like a behaviour that in any case isn't tolerable. But as always, I would love to hear your opinion on this. Sometimes you guys have also really good insights on certain topics, so do let me know. Do let me know. What do you think? Oh, actually someone said, not the asshole, don't touch things that you don't have permission to isn't a social cue and can be learned. If everyone gently explains it, they may never grasp the importance. Consequences aren't just for neurotypicals. Yeah, I think that wraps it up quite nicely here. But that also brings us to the end